My name is Ari Schonbrun and I'm your host. Today, I have a very good friend of mine who is joining us. His name is Jeff Kidwell. Jeff and I actually worked together at Canon Fitzgerald from 2004 to 2008. Let me tell you a little bit about Jeff. Jeff graduated with a BA from Cornell University in 1982. He's been an active senior architect in the repo and securities lending industry ever since. From 1982 to 2004, Jeff worked at Morgan Stanley, where he became the head of the North American repo desk and helped build the business into one of the top repo desks on the street. From 2004 to 2008, Jeff joined Canon Fitzgerald and became the co-head of the global repo desk, trading and sales, and managing director. From 2008 to 2018, he joined AVM and was the founder and head of Direct Repo, his over-the-counter peer-to-peer financing product. Jeff is the author of 2 books and a frequent public voice for the industry. Jeff's experience in the industry has continued in his Kidwell Consultants business. Jeff has designed, written, narrated, and videoed the accredited 11-week course on repo fundamentals. Throughout Jeff's lengthy career, he has been on several task forces for the Federal Reserve and SIA, as well as a member of the Financing Executive Committee of SIFMA. Jeff currently writes a regular repo commentary that is distributed to over 5,000 people in the repo and securities lending industry, including many state treasurers, the Federal Reserve, the ECB, and numerous corporate CFOs. When not speaking about repo, trading repo, or meeting with clients, Jeff also sings the national anthem for Major League Baseball games. He's done that 154 times since 2003. And he has performed frequently in a professional 5-part harmony group called Generation Gap, and professionally as an Elvis Presley tribute artist. Please help me welcome Jeff Kidwell.
Hey,
Jeff.
Harry.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's been a long time. You left Canon in 2008. I haven't seen you since then. It's about 13 years or so.
That's right.
That's amazing. I got to tell you, you and I, we're part of a rare breed. You know, we each stayed with a company, you with Morgan Stanley and me at Canon Fitzgerald for over 20 years.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just, I guess we're just masochists.
Yeah, it's lifers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, as you know, the name of this podcast is Whispers and Bricks. The whispers are those voices telling you what is the right thing to do and represents the good in life. The bricks represent the bad things that we go through in life. Now, it's common knowledge that everybody in their lifetime, at some point in time, has at least one, if not several bricks thrown at them. Now, I've had bricks thrown at me, the biggest brick being 9/11. You, on the other hand, on the surface, seem to have lived a charmed life. However, after a brief conversation that we've had before, I know that is not the case. Now, what I would like to do is I'd like to ask you to please share with me and my audience some of the bricks that you had thrown at you, be it in your personal life or professional life. Would you do that, please?
Sure. In my personal life, many people don't know this actually. So a lot of people know that I was married. They don't realize that I was married twice. And actually, between the marriages and the divorce processes, and one of them was a record-long 11-year divorce process in court, many people don't realize I was married for a total or engaged of 35 years. Both marriages obviously have ended. They were painful marriages and painful divorces, particularly the divorces. First one took 2 years, second one took 11 years. It turns out that my ex-wives were a lot smarter than I realized, and schemed the court system and figured out a way to fire lawyers so it would start the whole process over again annually. But anyway,
Oh my.
that's one thing that
It's interesting that you say that, because I have a very dear friend who's going through a divorce, and his hopefully soon to be ex-wife is already on her 4th lawyer. So,
yes.
it's,
Yes.
I don't know, they hire them, they fire them, and it starts all over again. And I know it's tough. So, man, 11 years, that must've been tough. I'm sorry.
Right. And if the person doesn't pay that lawyer after they fire them, then the lawyer won't pass along the discovery and the production information and the files. So that all has to be started again. So you go through the depositions and the discovery, and that takes months, maybe a year. And then when all of a sudden a court date appears, then they fire the lawyer again. So it starts the whole thing again. It just
Yeah.
snowballs. So yeah, that was something that I think a lot of people may have heard a bit about, but didn't know, the extent of it.
Wow.
I know that probably only a handful of people in the country know this part, which is that in 2006, I found my daughter. So I never had any children through these 35 years of marriage. But I had a child before I ever got married. In fact, the first girl I dated for 2 months um, got pregnant and decided to move away rather than marry me. And she put the child up for adoption. So I never got any information. I didn't know how to find this child, but every April I thought about, I have a child out there. And it really got to me after going through these two failed marriages, not able to see a child or not have a child. And so in 2006, through Catholic Charities, I found my daughter. And she called me the day after I called them. She called me on the cell phone as I was boarding a plane in West Palm Beach. And I said, "Oh my God, I've been waiting for this call all my life, but can I call you back in 2.5 hours?" So when I landed in New York, I called her and we had a 4-hour conversation. She had no anger towards me, she didn't make me feel guilty. She understood. Ironically, at 19, she had an abortion of a child. And ironically, her adoptive mother had put up a child for adoption and then couldn't have children. So it's just a weird thing. And it's
Oh,
all at
wow.
age 19. So we had a
Wow.
great relationship. I was giving her away at her wedding. I met her fiance, whose name is Eli Whitney, and he's a great grandson of Eli Whitney.
No
Very, very strange
way.
story.
No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, that gets even weirder, but I won't go too far into that. But he was a
Wow.
character. Um,
Wow.
Anyhow, we both were dressed Gothic when we met, all in black, with the Chrome Hearts logos and Celtic crosses and everything. Unfortunately, I think she got my looks, so she was kind of a big girl, and we had a great time. And so I was giving her away at her wedding after I got my first Father's Day card, and about 5 weeks after my first Father's Day card, I got a call that she had died. So she died of an allergic reaction to Cipro. She just had a root canal and had an infection. And there was no one there because her fiance had just broken up with her a week before. So she was alone.
Oh
So I
my
had 2 years
God.
with her. The irony is that I've had a lot of accidents, and I know a lot of people know that. One of the bricks is I got hit by a car and was badly injured, but I've had a lot of sports accidents and things like that. And I actually thought that because of my risky behavior, that she may never learn her medical history. So I wanted to get her biological medical history. And in the end, it was switched around. It was actually so that I could have closure with her and she could have closure with me because she was going to pass on.
Wow. Now, so talk about, the brick of the two divorces and the woman who basically ran away with your child. And then all of a sudden, like the whispers coming back where you get in touch with her and,
The
life must have
annual
been,
whisper of, you need to go find her. You need to go find her, thinking that that's because I'm probably going to die given my risky, sports and injuries and all that. But in the end, it was actually her.
how old was she when she
She was
passed?
28.
28. And she wasn't married.
No.
She wasn't married. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeff, I am so sorry.
Thank you.
That is not something that I was expecting. I mean, I
Yeah.
kind of knew about the divorce.
Worth it.
All right. I didn't know it was 11 years, but, or 13 years all told, but I didn't know about your daughter. And how did, look, on the one hand, you had 2 years with her,
Right.
correct?
Yeah.
So God was smiling upon you at that point for those 2 years
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Jeff, I owe you something. All right, here it is." And he gave you the 2 years with your daughter.
But
Um,
he also whispered to me and said, "Now do the right thing." So, being a professional singer, I actually sang at her funeral. So I sang 4 songs at her funeral.
Oh,
And I heard her voice because she was a professional singer. And we had all these things in common. Both English majors, both worked in the finance field, both sang the national anthem for the Red Sox, both professional singers. I mean, it's just on and on and on. So I sang at her funeral, and then at the reception afterwards, I get to hear her CD, and I'd never heard her voice, and she sounded wonderful and beautiful
wow.
voice. 2 years after she passed, I got a letter in the mail from the mother of her former fiance, Eli's mother, and it was written, typewritten, 6 pages by my daughter of when she met me. It was all about her feelings and when she met me. Beautifully written, like Hallmark movie. In fact, I
Wow.
actually took it to a movie producer, to see if they wanted to use
Right.
the scene. I mean, it was a perfectly written treatise.
Wow.
It was
Wow.
that was so well. So
So,
basically, words from the dead.
so, so on the bright side, if you want to call it that, you've got the CD, so you'll always have her voice, and you've got that letter that you'll always have that will, that will basically, you know, give you that knowing what her feelings were. All
Right.
right. And always have that in, written. I mean, that's an incredible gift.
It is.
Okay. If you have to go through a tragedy that you went through, um, this is definitely a gift from God who's saying,
Yes.
I know I took your daughter, but it was, I needed her here. Okay. But I'm going to leave you with something. So you should always have her.
I
And
have
that,
something else too. So the day I met her, she took the time and patience before she came down to Manhattan to create a photo album of all of her pictures for the 26 years I missed. And she captioned each one. This is my first birthday. This is my first Halloween. And it was wonderful, a huge book. And there was an empty space on the cover. And her fiance had a Polaroid camera. And he took 2 pictures of us, gave one to her, and one I tucked into the empty space in the front of, and I still have that photo album.
wow. Wow. So all of this going on, and yet you still manage to keep up a career that is an amazing, amazing career.
Yeah.
I mean, you've done so much in your life in the financial world. I remember going through your repo program at
Mhm.
Canner. I remember that. That was really cool. And the other thing that I found amazing, all right, that it was not in your bio, which I didn't read, was most people don't know you were an avid movie buff,
Oh yes.
right?
Yeah.
You would
I
I
lived at the
remember,
movie theater practically. I
yes.
love it.
I remember, it was like every weekend, it would be every Monday, it would come out. Besides your repo report, there was okay, and I saw 5 movies over the course of the weekend, and let me give you my critique on the movies. And I'm going like, when did this guy have the time? It was like unbelievable. But I really loved it. That was so cool. It was so
Thank
great, you
Well,
know?
and the commentary is still set up like that, although I don't see as many movies, especially with the COVID pandemic. But
Yeah.
back then, I lived above the movie theater at 67th Street and Broadway, and I saw 100 movies to 120 movies a year. So I mean,
Yeah.
I saw a lot of movies.
Oh yeah.
But the commentary still has the whole entertainment section. It's got the
Really.
Kardashians. It's got all the sports, and now I've amplified that and put in the F1 racing and all that, because there's some IndyCar racing fans and NASCAR fans. So I put that all in the commentary too. So it's still entertaining. That's the idea. Entertain
Right.
people, a
Right.
little bit of information, and then they want to come back and see it more.
Correct. Absolutely.
And I
Now,
can't make all those phone calls to them. It would take me 20 years to make the phone calls to all the people I know. I've got a
I
contact list of 9,000 people.
really. So don't forget when this comes out, put it out to your 9,000 people. They got to listen to this podcast,
I will. I
you
will.
know? Now, let me ask you this. All right. Knowing what I now know, you must have gotten to a point that you were so low down, you were so despondent that you probably said to yourself, that's it. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. The heck with my dreams, the heck with the goals. I'm packing it in. All right. You must have done. And if so, how did you manage to get through that? How did you get out of that? what did you do? How did, did you talk to somebody? Did you seek counsel? Did you, did you go to a priest? Did you go to a rabbi? Did you, I mean, again, I don't know what
Right.
you are or not, but hey.
I've been called worse than that. I reached that point a few times. So it wasn't only once. Actually, at the end of in the middle of my first divorce, which is probably about 1990, 91, I sought counsel. So I had a psychotherapist, and I got to share my thoughts, and it was very helpful. I think anybody going through a divorce probably should seek some kind of counseling, maybe with a priest or a rabbi or whatever. Um, that helped me then. Things got obviously worse over time. The bricks were bigger. They were kind of like cinder blocks after a while. And so at the end of 2007, when I left Cantor, I left Wall Street. I was done. I was
Really?
just done. I was discouraged. I was, this is right when I separated from my second wife. I was just, I couldn't deal with all the politics, and I couldn't deal with all the stuff going on. Plus, we were in the middle of a crisis, right? This is 2007.
2008. Yeah,
I
right. The meltdown.
liquidated 13 accounts. 13 of my chosen customers, unfortunately, were not meeting margin calls, and collateral had to be liquidated. And I was in Howard's office a lot, going over strategies. And it just was so much. I mean, we were working on weekends because it was such a crisis. I remember being there the Columbus Day weekend, like the entire weekend. Yeah. And I had enough. It had been a long time. And so I come down to Florida, and I actually went to California, met some clients, and then came to Florida, where I had a vacation home, just to meet a few clients. Went to lunch with one client, and they said, "Oh my gosh, it's like the Wall Street kingpin, and you're down in Florida now, and you're going to stay in Florida? You have to come work for us." I had basically a month or two off, and then suddenly I was back in again. It was like The Godfather Part 3, and they pulled me back in. I did another 10 years at AVM, and then after that, I still want to be part of this. So I've started this consultant firm, which has no politics, because there's just me. So
I hear.
I got away from the politics, and I can work on my own pace. And I'm in Florida. No complaints here. Everybody's coming down. All my friends from New York now are moving down here.
Yeah. Do you remember? Was Craig Schneider there when you were there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he's funny.
Yeah, he moved to Florida.
Yeah. I think he's talked to me on Facebook a few times.
Yeah.
I think he's near me too.
Yeah. Wow. That's totally amazing. And what you need to
what got me through it, by the way.
Yes, please.
That question.
Yes.
What got me through it was making myself busy. If I run, I don't let despondency or depression or loneliness catch up to me. It's not necessarily the best advice to give people, but I keep busy. I have constant to-do lists. Everybody knows that. If they ever saw my trading desk, they saw the to-do list. I have it down here, and I'm constantly crossing things off and
adding new things.
Exactly.
I'm sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just keep busy, even in my, I don't know if you call it semi-retired state. I'm still actively working, but I make sure that I'm busy. I'm doing something productive.
That's great. One of the reasons I do this is because I know in my audience, there are people that have gone through or are going through what you've gone through, and they can identify. And that's one of the reasons I'm here. And that's one of the reasons I do my podcast, because I want people to understand that no matter what it is that they're going through, somebody else has gone through the exact same thing, and they've gone through it, pulled out of it, and, kept on going on, and, continued on with life. And people need to hear that. They need to hear these kinds of stories. So I want to thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story. And it's truly amazing. You're an amazing individual, Jeff. I know you again, a long time. So before we go, all right, words of advice or words of wisdom that you might have for my audience, whether it's a tidbit or something, please.
I think these are age related. Okay. So I discovered at 40 that the world was moving too fast and you need to slow it down. And at 50, I realized everything that I thought was important at 30 or 40 isn't important at all. Nothing of what you think is important in your 30s and 40s is ever important in your 50s. And then in your 60s, I discovered, I just turned 60, that nothing, if something is something you don't want to do, or if somebody wants you to do something and you don't think it's right, you just don't do it. It's it. You start crossing it. If people are negative energy, you cross them off the list. If this is something you've never liked doing, don't ever do it again. So you start removing the negative things from your life, emphasize the positive things in your life.
There you go.
I've learned that over time.
There you go. And that's the whispers. Somebody tells you you need to do this and you go, no, I don't. That's the whispers that, that you're hearing that's saying, "Look, this is wrong. This is the wrong for me. This is not, and you walk away.
Mhm.
And that is, it takes courage. It takes
Yes.
courage to do these things. All right. But at the end of the day, it's all for the best. Jeff, thanks so much for sharing your story with my audience. I'm
you, Larry.
sure you've touched the hearts of many of my audience. Good luck going forward. You've been listening to Whispers and Bricks, and I'm your host, Ari Showman. Until next time, listen to the whispers, avoid the bricks, and never, ever give up on your dreams. Bye for now.